You know, sometimes you know, you gotta know I love to cook, and sometimes I just eat because I just want to taste the different flavors.
Right.
Have the different flavors just explode in my mouth. And then other reasons we eat to bond. You know, food is, a couple weeks ago, Ed and I watched the boxing match, and we had some ribs. And you know, the main point was boxing, but there was food there, and we get around and we bond around food. And, you know, we had a good time. You know, but then other times, at the very basic level, we eat because it is necessary to survive. And in this case, if we let it go too far, we become less discerning about what we eat as long as we eat something.
Right.
Based on the information provided in the text, Esau didn't care what was in the pot. All he could see was the color as well as his own physical needs. And Jacob's response was, first sell me your birthright. Right there, before we go any further, we discover that both Jacob and Esau are hungry. Esau was hungry for nutrition, and Jacob was hungry for status.
Right.
Because Esau's hunger was physical and Jacob's was mental, it puts Jacob in the advantageous position between the two. Jacob's hunger was based on the long term. Esau's hunger focused on immediate gratification.
Right.
Oftentimes here is where followers and teachers of Jesus, we get stuck, we get bogged down in immediate gratification. Last week, I don't know if you followed it or not, but the Supreme Court ruled in favor, of Hobby Lobby. They didn't have to give contraception, have to pay for insurance contraception for women. And those who oppose abortion applauded the ruling. But applauding the ruling is based on immediate gratification. Because the long-term implication is that corporations have the same First Amendment rights as individuals.
Right.
Now see, and that means like when we expand the rights of individuals, no one loses anything. But if a corporation has the same First Amendment rights as the individual loses. It means the individual has more religious freedom. The corporation has more religious freedom than the individual. The individual has less First Amendment free speech than the corporation. So, and if you're not careful, the Constitution becomes we the corporation and not we the people.
Right.
See, the hunger for immediate gratification can blind us to long-term implications.
Right.
The hunger for immediate gratification in the text can also mean that we can be blinded spiritually. That it prohibits us from realizing long-term consequences based on short-term results. Noah's short-term desire to get drunk led him to not be ready when God called him.
Right.
David's short-term desire for Bathsheba led him to murder Uriah.
Right.
Samson's short-term desire for Delilah caused him to get his hair cut off and lose his strength.
Right.
Peter's short-term desire to forget Jesus led to his own spiritual anguish. Those who suffer from addiction are unable to consider the long-term impact their addiction has on their family. People who have these broken conditions that they pass on generation to generation and they are unable to see the long-term implications. Short-term gratification of marital bliss means that nearly half the couples in the long term will be divorced. Politicians do not consider the long-term impact on poor women and children when they advocate for incessant need for tax cuts.
Right.
But I understand short-term gratification can have a powerful hold on us. It will keep us in jobs we should quit, relationships we should end, and old habits we should break. Short-term gratification is linked to a feeling of powerlessness. Though described as a skilled hunter, it was Esau's sense of powerlessness that led him to conclude his birthright was not too high of a price to pay for something to eat.
Right.
I can't quit this job because I need the money.
Yeah.
I can't leave my spouse. I still have these kids.
Right.
I don't have time to go back to school. But what it does ultimately, it puts us in a position of being reactive rather than proactive.
Right. Right.
Reacting to what life deals us rather than taking the initiative of our own destiny.
Right.
The God that we serve does not want us to sit around reacting to whatever life dictates.
Right. Right.
That doesn't mean you won't have some difficult choices. That doesn't mean that everything will go according to plan. That doesn't mean that you won't have some dark days and some lonely nights with only the love of God to comfort you.
That's right.
But in the words of Thomas Paine, these are the times that try our souls. For followers of Jesus, your birthright is an inward love, peace, and joy. And if it can be sold for a mess of pottage, then it isn't worth very much, is it?
Right. Right.
But Jacob's hunger was for perceived power and prestige that blinded him to the concepts of love, grace, and mercy. He was willing to let his brother go without food unless he received his birthright in exchange. From the moment they were born, when Jacob was holding on to Esau's heel, there had been a competition that made Jacob unable to see his brother's humanity. Instead, he sees only someone who stands between where he is and where he wants to be.
Right. Right.
What a spiritually impoverished existence. To live life that is morally bankrupt in its present state is impossible for Jacob to engage authentically. Jacob is so driven by the difference between him and Esau that that's all he can see. And what is it like for your life to be driven by somebody else's life?
Right.
That's got to be a rough place to be. I don't care how much you brag to the contrary. I don't care how much you say you got it all together. When part of your life is driven by somebody else, you are morally bankrupt. And if you can't engage authentically, you will not possess the trust in God to engage in Jesus' inconvenient love. So if you can't see somebody else's humanity, you can't engage in inconvenient love. It's not possible. Unable to see Esau's humility, unable to see his love, unable to see that they are connected by blood. Jacob is blinded by his wants and his desires. Like Esau, the way the world can have us spiritually famished to the point that we'll settle for what's ever in the pot, believing that it will at least feed our bodies, if not our souls. And so often it is nothing more than the empty calories of shortcuts and easy answers. It is easy to say that Jacob tricked Esau out of his birthright. That way we don't have to see the Jacob in us. And we don't have to confront our own hungers of greed and desire. Moreover, it allows us to be an apologist for Esau, justify his actions because they justify our own. If we see him as a victim, we don't have to confront the times we've been reactionary based on short-term desires for immediate gratification. According to the text, Esau said to Jacob, "Let me eat some of that red stuff, for I am famished." Jacob said, "First sell me your birthright." Esau then said, "I'm about to die. What use is a birthright to me?" Well, perhaps a better question. Did Jacob trick Esau out of his birthright? Or did Esau put his birthright on sale at a reduced rate? See, the problem that Esau has is that he's not honest with himself. See, in verse 32, what good is my birthright to me? I'm about to die. Verse 34, after he says he ate, he went away. Thus Esau despised his birthright. When you go 2 chapters over, chapter 27, verse 41, after Jacob had received the blessing when Isaac was dying, Now Esau hated Jacob. And he said, after the mourning period is over, I'm going to kill my brother Jacob. That doesn't sound like his birthright no longer matters. This is a far cry from what good is my birthright to me. I'm about to die. Now he wants revenge. After selling his birthright wholesale, now he's mad.
Right. Right.
Whatever it is you're hungry for, it cannot be something that you're willing to sell at a discount.
Right.
But sometimes life will present challenges to us when there aren't any easy answers. It requires the courage and the love of God to see you through. It requires the words of Paul that I do not consider the suffering of this present time to be compared with the glory that's about to be revealed. We can say in the words of David, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Why? Because God is with me. God's rod and staff comfort me. Because sometimes we make decisions out of fear. The fear of losing our job, the fear of losing our relationship, the fear of losing our status, the fear of being alone, the fear of not being loved, and the fear of making change that we need to make in order to have peace that passes all understanding. You want some peace in your life? Then you got to make a difficult change.
Amen. That's right.
I know it's scary,
Yes.
but you can't sit here all bound up in nonsense and tied up in knots. You got to have some courage. You got to trust God. You got to believe in Jesus that change is possible. See, we can say in the words of Sloan Coffin, no one need be afraid of fear. Only be afraid that fear will stop us from doing what is right. Courage means being well aware of the worst that can happen, being scared almost to death, and doing it anyhow. That's what it means to have an authentic faith in God.
Yeah.
But this text is simultaneously challenging and it's enlightening. It's challenging in that it is far too easy to line up on either side, choosing Esau or Jacob, depending on which one causes us the least discomfort. But if we embrace a modicum of courage, this text becomes enlightening and potentially transforming. See, this text challenges us, church, to see the Esau and the Jacob in us. Can we see where our hunger for our wants and desires have caused us not to affirm the humanity in others? Can we see where our needs for immediate gratification has led us to sell something important to us at a discount? Can we see the duality of good and bad in us? God has courage for the Esau in us. God has humility for the Jacob in us. The need for the faith journey to be a smooth one is understandable. I get that. Everybody wants smooth sailing.
Right.
But that's not realistic. Esau and Jacob in the text are broken in their own ways. We are broken in the human condition. But in everyone, in everything, there is a crack. But that's how the light of God gets inside. That's how the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. That's how we become more than conquerors through Him who loved us. It is how God makes the rough edges smooth and the crooked places straight. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good, because through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus. I've learned to trust in God through the Jacob in me, through the Esau in me, through the greed in me, through the envy in me, through the regrets in me, through the failure